Portland Mayor Ethan Strimling suggested a similar proposal last year. It was shot down. City officials will now sort through these signatures, and if at least 1,500 of them are verified, the proposed ordinance will be heard by the public in September. Now, as you just saw, this is the topic of our Pulse question today. Go to pulse.newscentermaine.com or our mobile apps to weigh in. Meanwhile, the Southern Maine Landlord Association isn't exactly on board with the proposed changes. We've invited the president, Britt Vitalius, to explain. Let's start with this question, Britt. Is Portland affordable, in your opinion?
I think actually, as we look at the numbers, Portland is affordable for the people who are living here. So I think the numbers actually bear out, but there's no question that the city has gone through a change, and anytime we go through a change, you need to look at policy, and it's fair to do so.
So that said, you have read through this proposal. What is it that stands out to you that concerns you?
Well, I think first I'd like to say housing policy is extremely complicated, and our city council, composed entirely of Democrats, has just looked at this issue for the last 8 months, in the last year, and came to some reasonable conclusions because they realized we were in a market cycle. And I think it's challenging for a small group of activists to try and mandate housing policy for an entire city. So with that said, this is not your grandfather's rent control. This is actually very draconian rent control that is very different from what people are expecting. One point is that the rent doesn't change with the tenant. So if a tenant leaves, you don't get to just then reset the rent. The rent actually gets fixed to the unit starting on November 1st. So that alone is very different and counterintuitive to what most people expect.
What they had initially said is that there would be waivers for landlords who actually went through renovations and upgrades.
There are provisions in there, but I don't expect to see a lot of renovations being made the way this is framed. Again, this is a 15-page ordinance. It's extremely complicated. It tries to change the way eviction law works. So basically you can't have a tenant leave. You get into that permanent tenancy situation. It's really complicated. You've got to make the upgrades to your unit and then go before a board composed of 4 tenants and 1 landlord, among others, and ask for an increase, and the increase can only be up to 10%.
You were saying it sounds like this could actually backfire on tenants and prevent development.
Yeah, this is why policy is complicated, because anytime you do something that seems positive in one direction, there are going to be a lot of unintended consequences in another. So if we've got some really dilapidated buildings that really need work, as a couple have been profiled in the paper just recently, those units won't ever get fixed up because the most you could increase a rent is 10%. So if you've got an $800 rent, who's going to go in and renovate that unit to go to $880? It's just not going to happen. So this looks like it's kind of designed to protect the people who like where they're living and just don't want their world to change, but doesn't really address the low income and certainly doesn't address the true need for more housing.
All right, Britt Vitalius, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.